to me, I mean, this is one of the biggest misconceptions that people have, is it's all about the price tag and whether it's a vintage mic, this, that, and whatever. Now, it's not to say that there isn't, something to be said about a collection like John's, but all it is to me is just options. Because at the end of the day, it doesn't mean that, a $25,000 Elam 251, an original, is going to be the mic for your voice. It could be that you, like you mentioned, obviously, the characteristics of your voice. So if you've got a very mid-rangey kind of voice, I'm going to try to find a mic that doesn't accentuate those frequencies because I want to pull them down. So for me, as an engineer that's been doing this for a while, what I typically will do is I'll set up maybe 4 or 5 different microphones in front of the artist of whatever's. Actually, first step is I'll listen to the artist's voice in the room, see what their voice is actually doing when I hear it. And then based off of that and the knowledge of, a few years of having used several different types of mics, I'll pick 5 that I think are potential candidates, place them in front of the artist and have them sing into each mic, record a verse. And sometimes you're surprised. Sometimes it's not the $25,000 mic. Sometimes it's a 57, which is $100, right? It just depends.
That's funny. I was going to bring up a story about a 57. So rumor has it then that when Rick Rubin recorded Blood, Sex, Sugar, Magic with the Chili Peppers, that they used a 57 for Anthony Kiedis's voice. So Blood, Sex, Sugar, Magic is kind of the first album where he really started to sing instead of kind of the rap talking, that kind of vibe. And, he just didn't feel super comfortable with regular microphones. So they would record with a 57 that he would just hold in his hand so that he could do his crazy thing and feel natural. Yep, and, sure. The album goes on to sell 25 million copies globally. And that's your 57. So.
Yeah. And I mean, Brendan O'Brien actually engineered on that with Rick. Because Rick produced it, and Brendan used 57s on the drum kit. I mean, I heard he used 57s on the kick drum. You know what I mean?
And so 57, for people that aren't super familiar, that's normally used for like the snare or something, right? For drums.
It can be used for both. I mean, I've used 57s inside the kick because it gives you a bit of that mid and a bit of that snap. But I'll have a different large diaphragm mic sitting out front to pick up some of the air of the kick, right? So it can be used, but from what I heard, and again, I haven't really looked into it any further, but apparently the 57 is all he had used on the kick drum, which gave you a bit of obviously a tighter and a mid-rangier kind of less woofy type of kick sound, right?
And the drum kit on that album is insane. Like I just listened to that entire album twice with some good studio headphones, and man, that drum kit sounds monstrous. It helps when Chad Smith is the one playing it, I think, Well,
and it's funny you say that because a lot of it obviously has to do with Brendan. I mean, Brendan's an incredible engineer. I mean, he's won enough Grammys and had enough awards to justify what am I trying to say?
Back up his talent.
Back up his talent. There we go. But it's funny that you mentioned Chad Smith, and that's, something that I've always told people is 80 to 85% of your sound is the artist or the musician themselves. I mean, if they're not hitting it, and I'm not even talking about a performance in terms of a take, I'm talking about the difference between a seasoned studio musician, and again, it doesn't have to be a session player, but just somebody that's been in the studio enough versus someone that's going in new. That's going to encompass a huge part of your final product because they know how to hit, because they're aware of what it's going to sound like through the mics.